A lot of people are under the impression that you need Nat 5s to do a lot of things in these games, and particularly PvP. And I want to talk about some examples of some Nat 3s that are like, I don't know, the diet versions of some pretty popular Nat 5s for PvP, because you have options. There are a lot of really good 3-star units in this game for PvP. I don't know how many of my fights we'll be able to see, but on my offenses, I ran through using a lot of 3 stars through this territory war, and they're very viable. And again, there are some replacement's a strong word, but there are some pretty nice stand-in 3-star units for some of the 5-star units that you might still be lacking. So let's go ahead and jump into it with let's do one of the premium ones. Let's go ahead and kick it off with one of the premium ones, the Fire Nurse. This is, I mean, one of the stronger PvP units that I have, probably one of the stronger PvP units in the game. She is very hard to contain. She is very strong. I have mine fully skilled up, so that this is on a 3-turn. So she's even kind of hard to Oblivion, right? Because she's also got a passive where she's going to remove a debuff from herself. She's going to do the same thing to the ally with the lowest health, bring their HP up to whoever had the highest HP. She's got a lot going on. She does a lot of things. So she's hard to contain. She's great for a bruiser comp. And you can find yourself in a stalemate with her if you don't bring enough damage. And you might kind of think, well, if I don't have her, I just don't have her and I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. Not necessarily true. There is a unit here in the Fire Hogchef who has a lot of really nice stuff going on. She's got a little defense lead, which is pretty handy. She's got a little attack bar boost for an ally on the A1. She's got the full turn meter. Basically, she gives anybody a turn with an attack buff and an effect up, which can be very handy. And that affects accuracy and resistance. I think a lot of people still don't realize that, but that effect up buff is 40% to accuracy and resistance. So that's very nice. Her passive, at the start of the turn, remove 2 debuffs and recover HP by 10% for the ally with the lowest HP. Again, not as strong as Fire Nurse. Obviously, Fire Nurse is doing a lot more, but she's a Nat 5 and this is a Nat 3. I have found myself in a stalemate, and you may have found yourself in a stalemate with this unit. It's another example of a unit where if you don't bring enough damage, you're going to be in trouble. she's tough because she's also got this A2, so if it's just her, she'll be doing this to herself every 2 turns. It's on a 2-turn cooldown, and it will be skilled up because she's not hard to skill up. So she could just give herself the turn, or if you're using her manually, you can give yourself the turn to shed the Oblivion and get the passive back in action again. She's very good. She's very good. I've used her quite a bit. I know Nepilepsy's a big fan, and he's a very high-level player. And again, I know a lot of other very high-level players are a big fan of her. You'll see her in Arena Defense sometimes. I think she's particularly good for Guild PvP. When there's less units, I think she shines when there's less units. So very, very good. Very worth a build, and you'd build her very similarly to how you would Fire Nurse. Just very high HP, high resistance, high speed, and just let her be a nuisance. Again, you will stalemate some offenses if you build her and put her on a tanky defense. It will happen. Another one. Let's move over to the Water Iron Fist. Very cool unit. I actually almost took her from my Nat 5 selection event. She would be a lot of fun. I do hope I pull her at some point, but she's got a very beefy HP lead. She has this passive where anytime that you get crit, she will remove all of the debuffs on herself and decrease the damage that she takes. And then also beyond that, she's healing herself and an ally. She's got a lot going on in that passive. Basically, if you're critting her, you're going to have a very hard time killing her. She's going to take less damage. She's going to get rid of all the debuffs every single time you do it. There is no cooldown. Very annoying. Here we've got a defense down and a stun, which is the kind of the standard Iron Fist A2. And then buff strip on the A1, right? So just kind of a bruisery. Again, bruisery, kind of stallish, can be kind of dangerous, can be very hard to kill. Pretty strong unit. Now, there are a couple of alternatives to her. As far as 3-star is concerned, I think the closest thing we have is probably the Water Occult Dancer. I actually have her built, and I run her on defense. Am I running her on defense currently in Airship? I've been changing my defenses up a little. I am running her on defense, and let's check my defenses. I do that every time. I go to log every time, dude. Where am I? Oh, I need to do my... Oh, it just reset. I was like, I need to do my fights. Defense success. It doesn't win as much as my fire nurse defense, but it does sneak some wins in occasionally. That was different. But then a couple of weeks ago, I was running it. You see, we sneak some wins in there. It can catch people off guard. And let's talk about why. Let's talk about why that's happening to people. She has a passive where every time she gets critted, she puts a shield on herself equal to 26% of her max HP. If any other ally takes damage exceeding half of their max HP, she grants the same shield to them to absorb the damage. So it's not as intense as the Water Iron Fist. She's not cleansing all of the debuffs and stuff. But if you load up a bunch of HP on her and put a bunch of resistance on her, people are going to end up in a situation where they can't kill her. If they don't have the damage, they can't kill her. Every time they crit her, she's going to refresh this shield that, if she has a lot of HP, will be pretty substantial. She has a cleanse for herself and an ally with a pretty nice heal and a nullify, which can be a very big pain in the ass. And then here she's got some like sneaky damage, right? If you could sneak some crit in on her, you could sneak some damage in on her as well. But this passive, so if you load up HP on her, so if we take a look at mine, she's not crazy, but like she's got a decent amount of HP, not really too much speed, and a decent amount of resistance. I could probably stand to come in and redo her soon. I've got a protection set on her, and I've got a life set on her. So basically, yeah, don't worry too much about speed. Just load her up with HP and resistance. I need to get a better HP rune there, gear there rather. And she can be kind of like a good cheeky stall and a good replacement of sorts for the Water Iron Fist if you don't have her. They have a similar vibe, similar mechanics, right? And can kind of serve similar purposes. So I'm a big fan. I really like the Water Cult Dancer a lot. I like the idea of people getting stuck on my defense like that. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Fire Barbarian. Very cool unit. Big old defense lead. He's got this passive where he can't take more than 35% of his max HP as damage. So he's an example of a unit that you can't one-shot. Also built into this, he has a chance to counterattack and stun. And if he glances, which is crazy, then he follows up with Megaton Smash. Right? So a lot going on in the passive, but the big thing about it is he can't be one-shotted, and he counterattacks with a stun. And he does pretty good damage, right? Pretty good bruisery damage. So pretty cool unit. Would be a lot of fun to have. However, if you don't, I talk about this unit a lot. If you watch any of my videos, you probably heard me talk about Light Dome Fighter. She is one of my favorites in the game. I think Dome Fighters across the board are probably my favorite 3-star. And this is one of my favorites in the whole game. She is so cool. She has a passive where the damage that she takes from a hit won't exceed 20% of her max HP. So you got to hit her more than 5 times to kill her, which is annoying, right? That means that she can't be bookwormed. She can't be A1. She can't be turn 1 bookwormed, because bookworm's only going to hit her 3 times, 4 times if he's in an echo set and he procs. Still can't kill her. If she's got 4,000 total HP, he still can't kill her. That's pretty rough. And then when this procs, so when she would have taken more than 20% of her max HP on a 2-turn cooldown, she'll grant herself 2-turn immunity. So she's got self-buffing immunity. And again, she's similar vibes as Firebarb, where she can't be one-shotted. If you load her up in counter, which I highly recommend that you do, she will be very likely to counterattack with some pretty nice damage and a fairly reliable stun. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Except she's light, so she's not going to have a problem against water like the Fire Barbarian might. So she also self-buffs. She's got an AoE taunt, which is some nice crowd control. She's got a lot going on, but a very good, I'll say a very good stand-in for Fire Barb, and in some cases, perhaps the better option, the better choice if you have both. But if you don't have Fire Barb and you're looking for a unit like that, I think she is excellent. And again, I use her, I mean, she's one of my most used 3-stars for sure. She's on my most successful defense. If we go back in and look at my history, I don't know why I'm so far down here, dude. If we look at my defensive history, it is not uncommon for this team to have wins. This team wins more than it loses. This was against a pretty strong guild. Every now and then we get put up against somebody that's just a little out of our league, but it's not uncommon for this defense to get wins. Very, very strong, and she's the damage. She's the kill condition, right? So very cool unit. One of my favorites in the game. Let's move on. Let's talk about the tree mercenary mother. She's got a pretty cool passive where she shares damage taken by other allies. She reduces the damage that she takes by 100% of her defense. So let's say you stack her up to like plus 2k. She's got 2700 defense. That gets subtracted from the damage she would have taken, which is pretty cool. Just flat. There's no equation. There's no complication to it. The higher you can get her defense, the more that's going to subtract the amount of damage that she takes. So that's pretty cool. Here we've got a 2-hitter with a defense down, and she puts provoke on herself, which is pretty handy. And then here we've got the A1 stun. It does ignore a little defense, which is nice, and it's based on her defense. So pretty cool, pretty complimentary kit. But you'd primarily be using her for the damage reduction for the rest of the team. That share 20% of the damage taken by allies is pretty handy. So I think a pretty good budget option for her, and they're fairly different, but also fairly similar. And you may have seen this unit if you've participated in Rush and Arena. If you've been trying to rush, you've probably seen this unit on some defenses. This is one that people like to build and put up on their defense to just kind of deter you from hitting it, where it's going to be a little harder to cleave. It's going to be a little annoying to deal with. So let's talk about why. We've got the Bulwark passive. Increase the max HP of all allies by 10% of your max HP. Decreases the incoming damage of all allies except you by 15%. That's a lot of damage mitigation. Now, it does it in a little bit more of a roundabout way than the tree Merc Mother, but there's a 10% boost to everyone's HP based on this unit's max HP. So you don't have to load it up with speed or anything, kind of like we talked about with the water occult dancer. Just load it up with as much HP as possible, and the more HP you give it, the more HP everybody else on the team gets. It's like an extra HP lead. So if you're running an HP lead and then you have this unit on the team, it's like another HP lead. You know what I'm saying? And then just flat out decreases the incoming damage of all allies by 15%. That's a pretty substantial reduction. You could see where that would be a little harder to bookworm. Everybody's getting a lot of bonus HP. Everybody's getting extra damage mitigation on top of the bonus HP. So lots of damage mitigation built in. If you don't Oblivion this unit, you're gonna have an annoying you're gonna have an annoying time. Here we've got a 3-hitter with a defense down, damage based on max HP. So you get a little sneaky damage. Actually, a lot of sneaky damage. This unit could surprise you with how hard it hits you. Because again, it's going to be loading up a lot of HP. If they sneak some crit in here on this unit, he might rock your shit. he might take somebody out of the fight before you were expecting it. And then an A1 stun. So you see fairly similar units. It's almost like they kind of built them with that in mind. Like this is the budget version. It is a light unit, so perhaps a little harder to pull, but still there and pretty cool. Very, very usable. I might build mine soon and throw it on a defense and see how we go. And for this last one, it's kind of an interesting one. I was trying to figure out which way I wanted to go with this, and I landed on the Water Music Queen. And I think there are 2 units that sort of could stand in for her in different ways that we'll talk about. But she's a very good unit. She's got a very good attack bar boost with a good attack up and a shield for a little insurance for your cleave, or if you wanted to be running more of a bruiser style, she offers some support in that as well. She has an A2 defense down with Incurable and Blind, and then an attack down on the A1. Just a solid unit. Great initiator, great for a cleave, great for a bruise, pretty versatile. A lot can be done with this unit. And again, I think there's 2 that I want to talk about that could stand in. There's a few good boosters, but I think Fire Gyro is one to talk about here. We have a 30% boost with the attack up, which is pretty nice. And if I'm not mistaken, Water Queen, no, she has 30% as well. I feel like in Summoner's War, her equivalent only has a 20% unless they changed it. Maybe they changed it. I feel like Bastet used to have a 20% boost. Maybe I'm wrong though. Anyway, 30% boost with the attack up here is pretty nice. Then we have a little bit of a heal and immunity on the A2. So different, but still offering some support. Unfortunately needs an extra turn, but it is a 3-star. But there's a little extra support in there. So there's a little bit of that insurance we were talking about that you get with the shield, and then an incurable on the A1. So just I think just a decent booster with a good 30%. Now there may be better options for a booster, but as far as increased attack bar and getting the attack buff, increasing it by 30%, I don't think there's a lot of 3-star options. I think that's your 3-star option for a 30% attack bar booster with an attack buff, okay? Now the next unit that I also want to talk about kind of in relation to the Water Music Queen is the Tree Giant. Smaller boost, but attack up and defense up, which in a roundabout way is like a shield. Sort of in a roundabout way serving the same purpose, increasing the survivability. Defense buff, I keep forgetting defense up is 70%. And not 50 like attack. That's pretty substantial. So this unit's cool because it'll buff your damage dealer no matter if they're attack or defense. If they skill on attack or defense, they get buffed by this unit along with the attack bar, which is nice. It's only 20%, so it's not as good as the 30. But I think the extra buff is pretty nice because it's a little insurance for your attack damage dealers, and it's an attack buff for your defensive damage dealers. And then here we've got a stun with some damage based on HP and a taunt on the A1. So a little bit more crowd control focused than the Music Queen, but I think offering similar things. Just a little insurance, a little bit of extra protection, a little bit of insurance and crowd control. And I think if you don't have a booster like that, you can be fairly limited down here. But I think these are two really good options for boosters. Again, this is your only 3-star option. If I'm not mistaken, then did I just overlook somebody? I'm wondering if maybe I just overlooked somebody when we did this a second ago. I think, yeah, these are single target. Those are all single target. Yeah, these are your options. And this is your option for a 30% with an attack buff. So, and there you go. I just thought this would be kind of fun and maybe helpful. Maybe put somebody on your radar. Maybe I've seen people talking about like not being able to do some things because they don't have the Fire Nurse. And I think Hog Chef is excellent. I have used Hog Chef quite a bit. And while of course Fire Nurse is going to be better, while of course these Nat 5's are going to be better in most cases, you certainly have some of the mechanics at your disposal to work with. So you might have to get a little bit more creative with it sometimes, but it's all there. It's all there. There's usually some sort of counterpart. So yeah, maybe in the future we'll do a part 2 of this as I figure out some more units that are sort of the counterpart to specific Nat 5's. If you have any that I didn't talk about in this video, feel free to let me know, and we'll get them in part 2. Also, if you're interested in me doing something similar with Nat 5's to Nat 4's or Nat 4's to Nat 3's, let me know, and I'll work on that as well. I figured Nat 5 to Nat 3 would be the most interesting, but there's a lot more going on from Nat 5 to Nat 4 and Nat 4 to Nat 3. So if you would like maybe longer versions of those, let me know, and we'll get started on them soon. But that's it. Hope it was helpful. Interested to hear if you guys have any Nat 3 versions of Nat 5's that you've been using that you like a lot that I didn't talk about here. And that's it. I'm getting out of here. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you later.